everybody, and welcome to the Refuge Church podcast. This is a ministry highlight episode where we highlight a member of our staff, and I'm privileged and thankful to bring on the Refuge worship pastor, Miss Rhonda Vacco. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm glad you agreed to do this. Is this the first time you've ever done anything like this?
Yes.
But you sing every single week, so the stage doesn't bother you.
No.
But this does.
Yeah.
What's
My songs are scripted.
That's true. That's true. This is a little different for you.
Yeah. I'm a little more put on the spot, I guess.
Is this as nerve-wracking as teaching?
Much more.
Much more. Is it just because it's new?
It's new.
Okay.
And 8-year-olds aren't very judgmental usually.
Not usually. Well, what if they put a podcast mic in your face during class? Would that make you nervous?
Maybe a little.
I can picture a little 8-year-old going, "I'm doing something for YouTube. Would you?" That would be great. Rhonda, as we're going to be doing with all of these staff episodes, and as we've already done, the object is to give people a window into who works at Refuge, why we're there, what we're passionate about, and who we are. So let's start as good a place as any, and that's at the beginning. Where were you born?
Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
And what was it like growing up there?
Well, I didn't grow up there. I grew up about 100 miles southeast in a little bitty town called Holdenville.
Okay.
That hardly anybody's ever heard of. And then my family moved to Arkansas when I was about 10.
Oh,
and
wow.
I grew up in the Mountain Home area, and then I moved to Jonesboro after Bill and I got married.
And so that's been how many years ago?
25, be 26 in June.
26 years in Jonesboro now. Mm-hmm. Okay. How many of those years have been at Refuge?
This year will be 20.
Okay. 20 years at Refuge. Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you remember about what day that is so we can put it on the calendar and celebrate y'all's anniversary of being here?
I honestly don't remember the day. We've talked about it. I really feel like it was Easter Sunday of 2005.
That would make sense.
So whatever day Easter fell on that year.
All right. So prior to that, growing up in the areas you grew up in, talk about what was your childhood and upbringing like in terms of being in church? Were y'all active going to church as a family? What did that look like?
Yes. My parents got saved when I was 2.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually were UPC. So
Which stands for what, in case somebody's new?
United Pentecostal Church.
Mm-hmm.
Holiness, long dresses, long hair.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I grew up. And we went to different churches. We went to UPC churches, and then we also went to some non-denominational churches when I was a teenager. And then I started going to an Assembly of God church after I'd moved out on my own. I was about 19, and I started going there and got into the Assembly of God. But yeah, we were pretty much in church my whole life.
Now, in terms of being in the United Pentecostal, what you just said, is a lot of strict guidelines, and sometimes it veers over into legalism. Was that awkward for you as a kid? Because probably a lot of your friends and other members of your family probably didn't adhere to that. So what was that like?
Yes, it was awkward. It was, but I also, little side note, never went to public school.
Okay.
So I went to a private Christian school. It was part of our church when I was younger, and then I was homeschooled the rest of my life.
Okay.
So I was not exposed to like kids in a public school setting. I feel like that would have been a lot harder probably. But yeah, other kids like my cousins and other kids in our family, like it was sometimes embarrassing. We got made fun of sometimes, and it was just awkward. I mean, because we were obviously very different from kids in the neighborhood. And
right. I grew up in a non-denominational church too, and I went to a Christian school my whole life. There was something about, because you and I are not much different in age, there was something about our generation. Everybody was very overprotective and over-sheltering about, like my wife and I tell stories about, we heard things like if you go to a public school, people get stabbed in the locker rooms and
you're going to do drugs.
It's not a choice. You will do drugs when you go to public school. So just don't ever. And I mean, looking back now, that not knowing what you know now, because right now, for those of you that don't know, you teach in a public school. So look, knowing what you know now, I mean, did you have a lot of friends that went to public schools, and now looking back, you're like, oh boy, we just were we were maybe a little too protected or too sheltered, or what do you think about now looking back?
I do think, and obviously I sent all 3 of my girls to public school because I feel like I was sheltered, and that caused some issues later on.
Right.
I I think there's good and bad, obviously, to public school, but I also think that there's just as much bad stuff in private schools. And I think that when you're homeschooled, you're too isolated. And I know homeschool has come a long way since I was homeschooled.
Right.
There's more communities now of homeschoolers, whereas I just remember as a kid, like, I just wanted friends.
Yeah.
And was just home all the time with my siblings. And I can remember at a point probably about high school, I literally begged, I was like, can I just go to school? And they were like, no, like, we've done it this long, we're just going to finish. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think school's all bad. I think, obviously, I think it's a mission field for one. And I think that if we pull all the good kids out of public school, then
what are we doing?
What's left, Right. I believe that. And then there's just so many opportunities that you miss out on.
Yeah.
When you're kept out of those things.
I agree. Yeah, I felt the same way. There was so many times, some of my most, awkward and, things I had to get delivered from memories happened in Christian school because parents think that's a safe place. It's just
kids are kids.
It's an incubator for kids to be kids, and worse, they think they can get away with it because a lot of them think they can do whatever they want, still go to heaven. And so, yeah, I grew up in a predominantly Baptist Christian school, so once saved, always saved. So they can do whatever they want to me, and they're fine. They prayed the prayer, and yeah, so it was definitely different. Talk about though growing up in that kind of environment, then maybe having mixed feelings about the dynamics of church, the dynamics of school and everything. So where within all of that haze did you finally come to the place where it was time to accept Christ for yourself?
And see, that's a hard thing, I guess, because of how I grew up in such a legalistic environment. I don't know that for years, I couldn't tell you a specific day and a time. I was just kind of like, it's just what I've always done, you know? Now, then later, after high school, when I moved out on my own, I walked away from a lot of of my beliefs, and I don't think I turned my back on God. I still had a respect for God. I still knew He was there, but I knew I wasn't living right.
You deafened His voice.
Yes, and so I made choices. And I was living in sin, but I never completely, I feel like the Holy Spirit He still convicted me. I was well aware of what I was doing and that I wasn't where I needed to be.
How'd your family react to all that?
It was difficult. And then, I don't know how deep you want to go in this.
As deep as you want to take us. It's your life.
I ended up getting pregnant. And so my family was supportive, though, and I appreciate that because, they could have, turned away, and they didn't. They welcomed me. They offered for me to come back home, which I did. Obviously, there were some stipulations. They were like, you're going to need to change some things because you're living back in our house. They offered to be there for my child because I didn't have anyone else.
Right.
I was going to be a single mom. And so it was at that point, it was actually during my pregnancy that I realized I needed to get my life back on track because not only was I responsible for myself, now I had a child that I was responsible for. And like I said, God was always there. I knew. And so that was the wake-up call I really needed because I wasn't, even if I threw my own life away, I wasn't going to throw away her life.
Wow.
And I credit her with her existence, with getting me back on track and where I needed to be with God. And I named her Hannah because she was a gift from God.
Absolutely.
And really saved my life.
Absolutely. Tissue check. I had a feeling because I know bits and pieces of your story. A lot of this is going to be news to me too because you and I work together a lot, but we don't talk about this kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, the thought of all of that, just, it's overwhelming to think about. So talk to me about that within your personal walk. I mean, we both know the heart of God. God was right there ready to take you and, and bring you closer and remind you who you are to him. But how did that unlock that next level where it's like, okay, if I'm going to get right with God and I'm going to make this the real deal, tell me that story. How did that happen?
Well, that's when I got involved in the Assembly of God Church. I started going, and I was welcomed into their young adult ministry. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's one thing, they never judged me at all. I never felt less than. I mean, here I am, 19 and pregnant, and started coming to church by myself, and they just embraced me.
Yeah.
And again, credit to those people that God put in my life, because they could have reacted a different way and it would have changed the trajectory of my life. But because they loved me and never questioned, I don't know, they embraced me and involved me in their groups and their trips, and that was when my real relationship with God started, I would say.
So around the age of 19.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's when I learned through them and through a relationship with God that's where I learned what forgiveness and grace is.
Yeah.
And because they offered that to me, and they were Jesus to me.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Since then, I mean, we're going to get into more of your current story, but since then, how's your healing process been, walking that out, understanding this is who God really is, this is who Jesus really is, this is the expectations, the relationship he wants to have with me, which was probably very different from what you were taught as a child?
Yes. For years, and I mean up until even in my 30s, maybe. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, going back a little.
Do whatever you want.
Obviously, being filled with the Holy Spirit was always important to me. And growing up in the denomination, it was almost, if you don't receive, I'm not even sure if they believe this, but this was kind of like what I grew up believing. If you don't speak in tongues, you almost don't go to heaven.
You're less than.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was something that you had to seek and almost earn.
Right.
Like, I don't know that it was necessarily said that way, but that was definitely.
It felt like almost another badge on your lapel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I never spoke in tongues my whole life. And so I always felt like there was something that wasn't quite good enough about me because I couldn't speak in tongues. I never had.
Right.
And so then after coming back to God, I had all this additional baggage, and I dealt with condemnation for years.
Yeah.
And it was just this, okay, well, God saved me because he had to, because his word says he will, but he didn't really want to. He was obligated to. And I will never be completely right with God because, I don't know, I just kind of felt like this stepchild. I don't know.
No, I get it. I get it.
Thought I'd never be good enough to get the Holy Ghost. I would never be used in any kind of ministry because I have a past. And then I even got to the point to where I kind of, it felt bad to not feel good enough. So then I started searching out, well, maybe the Bible doesn't say that everybody that has the Holy Ghost speaks in tongues.
Right.
So I was trying to find places in the Bible to where maybe I already have it, I just don't speak in tongues, and that's okay too. And that kind of made me feel better.
Right.
And that was a whole other journey, but I finally got to the place where I was just desperate, and I was like, I want it. It's something. And
how long did that take?
From the time that I mean, like, it was a matter of like a revival series, like a couple days, and I can remember. But
like, from the moment you fully committed at 19, how many years was it before that season of your life started happening?
I was probably about 35.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a journey.
Been at Refuge for a while. And just, I don't know, but the longer I was at Refuge and the longer I was around that culture and like that God has more, I was growing up and realizing some of the misconceptions I had had all my life.
Gotcha. How did Bill come into this picture? Your awesome husband.
We actually met, I was working at Sonic, and he came through the drive-thru, and I was like, oh, this guy at the window is really hot. And the guy I said it to, the guy I was working with, he was like, oh, that's Bill, my buddy. And so he opens the window and embarrasses me to death. And
Of
he's
course.
like, she thinks you're hot. And I just went off. I just took off to the back. And I was like, you can finish.
We need more ice.
I did not go back up there. So then he came in the next day to get a drink. And then he came in the next day to get a drink. And so then finally our mutual friend was like, hey, Bill wants to know if he can have your number. So we went on a date, and we've been together ever since.
How long did y'all get dating before y'all got engaged and got married?
We dated for 6 months. We started dating in June. We got engaged on New Year's, and we got married the next June.
Wow. So about a year's time.
Almost exactly
Almost a year's time. My wife and I did almost the same thing. Yeah, I think about, let's see, I met her in April. We got engaged in April. We got married in September. So what is that? Like 17 months?
Year and a half.
Yeah, almost a year and a half. Yeah. Yeah. So wow, that's what was his part in maybe a lot of making that feeling of, because what you're describing and what a lot of people are going to be able to relate to is this thing of, I have to earn love. And if any of you know Bill, or if any of you have ever met Bill is one of the most easy to get along with people because he just loves you the moment he meets you. So was that difficult at first in y'all's relationship, trying to be like, this guy truly does love me? Because a lot of your, maybe experience and walk was not that way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there were times when I tried to push away, but that's one thing I can say, after Hannah was born, I kind of almost given up on ever finding like a husband that would love me and my child.
Right.
And from the moment he met Hannah, they connected. She was about 4 months old.
Wow.
And even while we were dating, he would introduce her as his daughter. And I mean, he just took her in from literally the day he met her.
Good man.
And then, of course, after we got married, he adopted her, and she's still accused of being his favorite.
So tell me, let's get to the part of what brings you to where we are now. How did you guys get to Refuge?
Well, Bill has a Catholic background. I had the Pentecostal background. So when
nothing wrong with that. They say if there's a demon in the room, the two best people to call are a Pentecostal and a Catholic.
Well, when we got together, he had a very jaded outlook on church. He said he would never go to church. He thought churches were just places to take your money. He just didn't believe in it. And so at one point, I kind of had to almost put the brakes on our relationship, and I was like, whoa. I've already promised God that I'm going to raise Hannah in church. Church is important to me. If we're not on the same page, we might not need to go any further.
Right.
So he started going to church with me. Actually went to this is going to throw it way back, a Heaven's Gates, Hell's Flames production.
Oh, you're dating yourself now, sister. Would you like to just take 1 minute real quick and describe what is Heaven's Gates, Hell's Flames for all the Gen Zers that have no clue what you just said?
Okay, it is a play that churches put on. They would put it on, this particular one that was happening had actually gone, they're supposed to be for like 2 or 3 nights. This one had gone on for like 2 weeks because it just got so much response and people were coming. It's a play that you go watch, and it's very graphic. You go in, there's different scenarios are played out. The rapture happens, people get killed, and some go to heaven, and some are literally drug into hell by Satan coming onto the stage and dragging them.
They're trying to scare the literal hell out of you is exactly what it is.
Very much scare tactic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took him to one of those. He got saved that night.
Wow.
What he will tell you now, though, he said he doesn't know that he really got saved that night for obvious reasons.
And I don't want to chase a rabbit trail here, but I understand the value in an environment that makes you walk away going, holy cow, if I get in a car accident tonight, am I okay? I completely get that. But that's not how I got saved. I got saved in an altar at a youth camp. I mean, I gave my heart to the Lord in Royal Rangers, but the moment I can definitely say that Jesus became Lord of my life was in an altar call after a message of just how deep, how wide, how great the love of God is. And when I heard the description of God's love and God's grace, my immediate thing was, I've heard Bible stories my whole life, but there's something about the way that this guy preached it. It was just something about the lines of, if God's love is that deep and that wide, and it truly is the most powerful entity in this universe, I don't want to miss out on it. And so when I gave my heart to the Lord at 13, truly to become Lord and King of my life, it was because I want to serve a God who has this much love. And so that's what attracted me. So I'm assuming that somewhere down the road, a similar situation for Bill probably popped up, because that's what also brought you back to the Lord, was how much God loves you. So,
right. And so we started, we call it church shopping. We went to a different church. We tried different denominations. He went to the Assembly of God church with me. And of course, someone gave a message in tongues that day, because that's going to happen.
Yep.
I was just like, I'll explain it later.
Yep.
I went to a Catholic mass with him, had no clue what was going on.
Right.
We went to Baptist churches. We went to non-denominational. And then we never really found a place there. It was a mountain home when we were dating. Well, he moved up here. We got married, and we started going to Central Baptist. And we loved it. It was a great church. It really helped us we went there the first 5 years of our marriage.
Yeah.
And we were growing, and then it just kind of got to the point to where our kids were getting old enough to where they were going to start. I wanted them to know that there was more.
Yeah.
Not that what we had was, not that Central was bad, but that there was more.
Right.
And so we went to CFC for a while. And then I think we went there about a year. And then I kind of was like, can we just try? At the time, it was JFA, Jonesboro First Assembly.
Right.
So we tried it, and it was an adjustment. It took a while for us all to get plugged in, because it was different. And even I had been out of it for 5 years, but we stuck to it, and it's been our family for the last 20 years.
Collectively, because I'm sure people have asked you this, what was it over time that made y'all realize, unlike other churches where we also were there for a tenure, but this is a church we definitely want to make home? Because there is a difference in feeling home at a church versus this is the church I just attend every week. So what was it about Refuge, for maybe people that are watching this and are like, I would like to maybe visit Refuge, or I've been to Refuge once or twice. What is it about Refuge for you and Bill that was like, we're home?
I don't know that I could necessarily pinpoint, but I know a lot of it is the people. Their family. I mean, Pastor Matt, he was there when he was youth pastor when we first started going there. And I was drawn to him and just his passion for God, and just, that was, I was like, he's just a good guy. Like, you know, I always loved it when he would preach. And just the people there have always, and they've changed over the years, but some of them are still there. Some of the original ones that welcomed us in and loved us and loved our kids and helped us strengthen our marriage. I mean, we were part of Sunday school classes, and just, I don't know, it's just the family. Yeah. The investment of the people, I think, has been a lot of it. And then just the spiritual growth.
How soon after coming to Refuge did the music area began calling to you?
Oh, right away.
Right away.
Because I was in choir at Central. And so I think we had been there, it was about November when
What year?
Of 05.
05.
So it was like maybe 6 months after we had been there, I joined choir. And actually, Pastor Matt, I joined choir, and then they went through a transition, and the music leader left the church, and Pastor Matt actually took over the music ministry. And so he was like my first choir director.
That's cool.
At Refuge.
That's cool. And y'all been choiring it up ever since.
Yep. Back from the old. We had the green and white robes.
Yep. I've worn robes like that once or twice.
But you've never worn one 9 months pregnant. That was an experience.
I'll bet it was. 100%. So let's talk about now the process. You're there. You're growing as a family. The kids are coming along. The kids are getting involved. You're growing as a part of the choir, as part of the worship team. I'm assuming the keyboard came along for it not long after that.
No.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Keyboard has been I don't even remember now. I would say within the last 10 years.
Okay.
Maybe even 5.
Okay.
It's real recent. Now, I've played keys my whole life, but never in front of people. Not.
About how long after '05 did you move from just a choir member to a microphone?
I can't remember exactly.
Was there an audition process? Do you remember kind of like how it happened?
Yeah, I remember there was a backup team, and it took me a while to get to that level. But I know I got a part in one of the choir songs, like a solo part. Pastor picked me for that. So that was kind of the first thing that I did, and then eventually, I don't really remember the whole process.
That's okay. But yeah, I know a process you very much do remember is how you got asked to be the worship pastor here. So now let's talk about that. At what I know you were in a leadership position as far as on the music leadership team, probably.
Yes.
And so kind of talk about, because you went through the lead team process, which people that want to listen to the Net podcast can hear about what lead team is and why we do lead team here at Refuge. So you've been through lead team. So you were in a leader's mindset. So talk about that process, the meeting, what you felt at the time. Take us through it. How does Rhonda Vacco have worship pastor now in front of her name?
So I just graduated from lead team our graduation was postponed because of COVID, because it was 2020. So it was like late summer 2020. Just graduated from lead team. I was serving under Pastor Josh. He was our music director. I was kind of his assistant, for lack of better words. I was helping. I was making the schedule for him, stuff like that. Just doing some more stuff for him. Well, then he called me one night and he said, "We've been called to another church. I think you're going to do great. You can just keep doing what you're doing. Basically, you can just take over for me." And I was like, whoa. That is not what I signed up for. So I pretty quickly went and met with Pastor, and I was like, I don't know what Pastor Josh has told you, but he seems to think that I'm just going to kind of step into this role. I want you to know that is not my plan. Not interested. And he was like, okay. I kind of feel like it's supposed to be someone else, maybe outside of our church anyway. So he's like, I'm glad we're on the same page. He was like, can you continue to, help lead in the process? Sure. I was fine with that. So it was me and 2 others. We kind of rotated out. I was still making the schedule for us, and then, I don't know, it was like probably a year into it, I just started getting this kind of like a
burden.
A new passion for it. Started getting a vision for what
it could
be, things that could be changed, made better, just different things. And I was like, what is this coming from? Like, and in the meantime, Pastor had been interviewing lots of people, and there was a couple that looked like they might, a couple different ones, thought, oh, maybe this is going to work out, and then they always fell through. And I remember at one point I met with Pastor Micah, and we were just talking, and he had said something about, well, the worship team could be a part-time position.
Right.
Because in my mind, it was always a full-time worship pastor.
And you had been teaching kids at how long at this point?
8-ish years, something like that, 8-9 years. And I was not ready to give up my teaching career. I mean, because that's obviously my calling as well. And so in my mind, it was an either or situation.
Right.
And I didn't feel led to quit teaching. And so when he said that, it was like a light bulb. I was like, wait, like I could do both?
Exactly.
And so then that I just started kind of, thinking on that and praying about it. And I really just this burden continued. And so I set up a meeting with Pastor and I was like, can I talk to you? And
Sure.
when I sat down, I said, I want to talk to you about the music ministry. And he said, it's fine. He says, as long as you don't tell me you're quitting. And I said, well, actually, it's kind of the opposite.
Wow.
I said, I think maybe I'm supposed to be the music pastor.
And his response was?
He was like, tell me more. And so I started.
Raise your hand in the room if you've gotten the before.
So I started telling him kind of the vision and the ideas that I had and this passion, this new passion for, and he was like, I'm going to pray about it. You pray about it, and we're going to meet again.
Yep.
And then from there, everything just fell into place. I mean, so.
And you've been doing it how many years now?
I think it's coming up on 3, maybe.
Awesome. Well, I can speak from my own experience, having done it a long time. You're doing an amazing job.
Well, thank you.
And I'm really, really, really thankful that you're here. And it's inspiring because, and I've said this to Rhonda, for those of you that may, we have staff retreat every year. And we take time in every staff retreat to encourage each other and speak life over each other. And one of the things that the Lord spoke to me to tell you, and I hope you remember, is that a lot of people step into positions because their talent got them there. You're where you are because your heart got you there. And the heart you have for the presence of the Lord and the heart you have for people and to engage and watch people go from the week they've had into a place where God can minister to them and love on them and show them the grace that God has shown you, your heart burning, pleading to bring them to that place with you, because you and I both know this. On the platform, there are weeks we've had that's the last place we want to be. And sometimes in that moment, I'm worshiping for you, but I'm also really worshiping for me. And the fact of that you can compartmentalize that a little bit, but at the same time go, this is where I'm at. Y'all come with me and let's do it together. It's so contagious. It's so evident. There's never a doubt in my mind when you step on that platform, we're going to encounter God that night. And so.
Well, and I really credit a lot of that to my background and from where I came from and the change that God has made in my life, coming from that legalistic, having to earn everything and trying to be good enough. I'm so overwhelmed by the goodness and the grace and I'm just in love with Jesus.
Yeah.
And
how could you not love Jesus?
My worship just flows from that, and that's what I desire for everybody to experience.
I love it. What is let's do the negative then the positive. What's the most challenging part of being a worship pastor?
Well, one of them you kind of mentioned, on the days when you're not feeling it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the days that I sit down to make the set list and I'm just like, I don't even know. What are we going to do? And
don't you love those days?
And that's when I say, Holy Spirit, what are we going to sing today? Because I don't know.
Yep.
And kind of getting my heart right before I step out,
I call it my Ezekiel moment. Lord, I see a bunch of dry bones. Can they live? Only you know.
Or just dealing with what you dealt with that day, especially on a Wednesday night, I've worked all day and I've, and then it's like, now I've got to get spiritual.
I miss our green room talks when you would come into the green room before a Wednesday night after the days you've had and be like, this kid's driving me crazy. Back when I used to play with you every Wednesdays before West had Wednesdays. Yeah, I looked forward to connecting with you before church because you'd always have a good story or something to pray about. And so. But
that's also what I love about Wednesdays. Wednesdays are long, but
I
have church at the end and it's like, I can just let all that go and just... Yeah.
Look at you, master of segues. What's the most rewarding thing about what you do?
Seeing people engage with the presence of God. And even, I don't know. One of my favorite nights was a worship night that we had recently. I don't know. It was probably the last like worship night we had, where it was
Like
just
fall of last year?
probably.
I think so.
I can remember looking out and just seeing the pure joy and people just enjoying the presence of God. And I remember there were banners, there were people running, there were people just smiling. That to me is the ultimate.
It's a rush.
It is.
It's a good rush.
Like,
yeah.
this is so cool that God could use me and my team to help people get
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Rhonda, the last thing before we get to the closing fun part of this, tell me maybe what's on your heart right now? What are the things you're praying currently as we record this in the year 2025? What are some things maybe you feel like the direction for worship, not only at Refuge, but in the body of Christ? Anything God's been speaking to you about where God's taking you in your role as a worship pastor? Anything you want to share?
Always just getting people more engaged and just, I don't know. I just want it to be so contagious. Like, I just want, because there are still people that haven't truly let go and experienced all there is. And I long to see that.
What do you feel, if you could speak to maybe any worship leaders out there that may be watching this, what are maybe a couple of things that you see or things that are so important you need to do these couple of things to really make sure you're engaging your people?
I know one thing I do with my team, really build that culture, seek after God as a team, put God at the center. And I always tell my team, don't ever apologize for worshiping. If you miss a verse or you miss where you're supposed to come in because you're worshiping, I couldn't ask for better.
Right.
Like, yes, I want us to do well, but performance is always
right
at the very bottom. Like, I want my team to be worshipers, and that's my number one criteria. And just cultivating that culture of worship within the team before the congregation is ever there. We have to be worshipers. Absolutely.
I've told every team I've led, and even in the teams I'm leading now here at West, that we're setting the bar that they'll come up to. Most people in the congregation will not go past the place we set. We are the lid. And so if we don't lift our hands, they won't. If we don't dance, they won't. If we don't shout, they won't. We set the example of this is what worship looks like.
Yes,
absolutely. And then we say, come up the mountain with us. We're all going. So.
And then just giving them that freedom to do that.
Absolutely.
Like, move around. You don't have to stand in one spot.
Absolutely.
You don't have to sing all the words. You don't. And there have been times when I've opened my eyes and my whole team is laid out on the stage,
absolutely.
and that is okay.
And I'm okay. I'll just keep on playing.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I stop playing too.
Well, Rhonda, before I thank you for your time and let you go, I have what I call the lightning round. So it's going to be fun. You have to pull a Joey Tribbiani here. Immediate knee-jerk reaction. Don't overthink it. 20 questions. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right, here we go. Number 1, savory or sweet?
Sweet.
Number 2, mountains or beach?
Beach.
Number 3, spring or fall?
Spring.
Number 4, Apple or Microsoft?
Apple.
Number 5, dine-in or drive-through?
Drive-through.
Number 6, ice cream in a cup or a cone?
Cup.
Number 7, vacation or staycation?
Depends.
Pick one.
Staycation, probably.
Okay. Number 8, toilet paper rolls under or over?
Over.
Thank
That's
you.
not even a question.
Thank you. People that roll under, what is wrong with you?
No.
All right. Number 9, movies or television?
Television.
Okay. Number 10, are you an early bird or night owl?
Early.
Okay. Number 11, piano or guitar?
Piano.
Number 12, band or choir?
That's a tough one. Band.
Okay. Number 13, country or rock?
Probably country.
Number 14, soprano or alto?
Soprano.
Number 15, singing the melody or singing harmony?
Harmony.
Everybody thinks we love to hear the sound of our voice leading. I love singing harmony. I love
Somebody sing lead for me.
I love it. Now, if there's a song I really feel passionate about, give me the melody. But otherwise, give me tenor. Give me something else. I want to sing with you. That's absolutely true. Number 16, American Idol or The Voice?
American Idol.
Number 17, Backstreet Boys or NSYNC?
Can I say neither?
Thank you. That's our generation. I wanted to see where you fell on that.
Probably NSYNC, but
yeah, I weep for you. I'm for the group that actually still exists. Number 18, Elevation or Bethel?
Oh, that's tough. Elevation.
Okay. Number 19, Passion or Hillsong?
Passion.
And number 20, who's easier to teach, kids or adults?
Kids. Anytime.
Rhonda, I'm so glad you came on here. I hope
Thank
you
you.
had fun.
I did.
And I hope all of you had fun watching this. Miss Rhonda Vacco, the worship pastor of Refuge Church. If you want to know more about her, she has social medias. Would you like to plug anything or where people can find you besides after church on a Sunday morning?
Nah.
Protect yourself. She does have Facebook and Instagram though. So y'all can, if y'all want to go follow her profile, I'm sure she'd love to connect with you there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. God bless all of you. We'll see you next time on the Refuge Church podcast.